Gavin Newsom, as I had mentioned earlier, has had a series of podcast interviews, and he's selected conservatives.
We need to change the conversation. And that's why I'm launching a new podcast.
Well, that's not going to work because the world's most successful podcaster has absolutely slammed Gavin Newsom for this, posting on X, "If the ick was a podcast."
Charlie Hurt, Michael Savage, and others have been meeting with him. Steve Bannon was the most recent, and they're asking him a series of questions, but none of them seem to really get to the heart of the matter. To ask Governor Newsom why this state is a dysfunctional and unsustainable project.
Well, here's what I said, and you know I love you and I love Steve Bannon too. I don't like to see it because my own feeling is this guy's in training for 2028 against JD.
I'm not talking just about the $100 to $200 billion high-speed rail debacle.
California is going to get it right with this new high-speed rail.
I'm not even talking about Governor Newsom's blowing up of 4 dams on the Klamath River.
The removal of the 4 Klamath River dams, Iron Gate, Copco No. 1, Copco No. 2, and J.C. Boyle, stands as the largest dam demolition in U.S. history, a move critics slam as a reckless blow to California's already strained resources.
I'm not even talking about his cancellation or delaying of 3 reservoirs in Los Banos Grandes, the Sites Reservoir, and Temperance Flat, which would have given us in a year like this, where we have ample rainfall and snowmelt, about 5 million acre-feet of storage, which would have come in handy in August.
In order to protect a tiny little fish, the water up north gets routed into the Pacific Ocean. Well, it's very sad because I've been trying to get Gavin Newsom to allow water to come. You'd have tremendous water up there. They send it out to the Pacific because they're trying to protect a tiny little fish, which is in other areas, by the way, called a smelt.
I don't know what he's referring to when he talks about the Delta smelt and reservoirs. The reservoirs are completely full, the state reservoirs here in Southern California. That mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us.
If you look at Gavin Newsom's numbers, there's a Newsweek article, though. His numbers are down dramatically as far as favorability, trust, authenticity since he started his podcast. It's not going very well for him of how people view him.
I'm talking about the more dire catastrophes. Right now, the state started the year 2024, $76 billion in debt. We have the highest income tax rate at 13.3. We have the highest gas taxes at nearly 70 cents a gallon. We have among the highest sales taxes, property taxes. Right now, Governor Newsom, half of all births in California are covered by Medi-Cal. We have spent almost $11 billion on indigent aid, mostly for people who are here illegally. You are now broke. Even that was not enough. You are asking to borrow $3.4 billion from the general fund, which was in arrears, to pay for the health care of people who were largely allowed to come into California illegally.
He's making a very calculated bet that no one's going to remember that he was a failed governor, that no one's going to remember that he literally has no accomplishments, and that he's going to try to run to the middle and to be able to take his Democrat base for granted.
Newsom said, I'm going to take care of the forest and maintain the forest and do all that kind of stuff. He didn't do anything.
Governor, I live here, Governor. That was my daughter's school, Governor. Please tell me what you're going to do. I'm not going to hurt him, I promise.
I'm literally talking to the president right now to specifically answer the question of what we can do for you and your daughter.
Can I hear it? Can I hear your call? Because I don't.
I'm sorry. There's literally, I've tried 5 times. That's why I'm walking around to make the call.
Why is the president not taking your call?
Because it's not going through.
Almost 20% of all the people who are PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric users, have not paid their bills. It's a fantastic multi-billion-dollar shortfall. What is your plan to address that? If it's to raise rates, we already pay 70 to 80% higher electric bills than any other state, and on general, higher than the average American. We're up to German territory.
Their current electric rate of $0.397 per kilowatt hour is about 80% higher than the US average, driven by wildfire costs and grid upgrades, despite earning $2.24 billion in 2023 profits.
When should California see some financial benefit to this transformation to renewables?
Well, I think we have. That wind, the water and solar has kept prices down. California has lower residential utility bills than states like Texas, states like Florida, and others.
There have been surveys of roads and infrastructure. California is either dead last or among the 5 worst states as far as the conditions of their freeways and general roads. How can that be when we have the highest gas taxes in the United States by far?
$4.80 to Highway 85. They take our money to put it into the highways, and then they don't fix the roads, but they build infrastructure to charge us to drive on the public highways.
Can't pay their power bill. We don't have enough money to give medical support for illegal aliens. 27% of the population of the state was not born in the United States. That's an enormous task of integration and assimilation. Our school test scores are among the bottom 10 in the United States. It's an abject disaster because what you have done, Governor, and you didn't do it all, you inherited a lot from your predecessor, Jerry Brown, but you created a state which has the highest taxes and the worst social services. And the result of that is 3 things. Number 1, 10 to 15 million people said, if I'm going to pay the highest taxes and yet live in a state that has a high crime rate, poor social services, awful schools, I'm out. And they have left. And that was our traditional middle-class entrepreneurial cohort. Second, we have more illegal aliens than any other state in the union. You have welcomed them in without any plan how to assimilate, integrate, house, feed, take care of their health needs. So we have a huge number of poor people. 1 out of every 3 people on public assistance in the United States lives in California.
California's numbers hit a record high in 2024, with over 187,000 people counted as homeless on a single night, per the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Developments. This accounts for 24% of the nation's total homeless population of 771,500. 2/3 of California's homeless, around 124,000, are unsheltered. The highest share in the U.S. Los Angeles County alone hosts over 40% of the state's homeless, with more than 46,000 in the city of Los Angeles.
Third, the only reason that this country, this state, is even in existence is that we have this global tech empire in Silicon Valley. The result of it is we have a pyramidal medieval society in which we have a small billionaire class, and 1% of Californians pay about 50% of the income tax, that has utopian agendas about solar and wind power and diversity and equity, but they're not the majority of the population. They're not the minority of the population. They're a tiny little influential coastal elite who's become the richest group of people in history because of Silicon Valley. And then you've taken the middle class and driven them out of California. And then we have this large segment on the bottom of the pyramid that is poor. It cannot afford to pay its power bill. It has no access to health care because the system is broke, given the numbers of people who've come here from southern Mexico and other places in dire poverty. And you have no plan. We are in an existential free fall. And you as governor either can't or won't do anything about it. And if this continues in another decade, this is going to be a completely medieval third world society, if it isn't already.
They said, we have no water. I said, do you have a drought? No, we don't have a drought. And all they have to do is clean their forest, meaning Rake it up. Get rid of the leaves. Get rid of, leaves that are sitting there for 5 years. And
we'll certainly get rid of the deadfall.
And then we have the fire chief. She's been bragging for the last 2 years that her goal was to make sure it was diverse and inclusive. That can be good if it's competent. When you announce that 70% of your hiring will not be meritocratic, but will be based on diversity, equity, inclusion, then you're not putting the interest of your constituents first. The mayor, Karen Bass, was in Africa. You tell me why the mayor of the third largest city in the United States at fire season, when she had been warned and warned for days on end that the Santa Ana winds were up to 100 miles an hour in the evening, and there was a danger of fire, and she goes off to Africa for the inauguration of the president of Ghana?
So let's take it to the sources without the typical political mumbo jumbo.
Gavin Newsom is a symbol of modern California, ambitious, controversial, and deeply divided. He presents himself as the future of American leadership, a polished politician with national aspirations. But behind the carefully crafted image lies a state grappling with homelessness, crime, and an affordability crisis that continues to drive residents away. The question isn't just whether Gavin Newsom has failed California, it's whether his style of leadership represents the future of America. Is Newsom a warning sign of what happens when idealism meets reality? Or is he simply the right leader in the wrong moment? What do you think? Is Gavin Newsom's California a glimpse of America's future, or a lesson in how not to govern?